you know, Grandpa paid a lot for this gun, so we don't want to have dings in it, so we're going to try to clean them up. Oh, we need one right there. Need one right there. We'll just take the bottom of this chisel and just put one right there. Perfect. All right, then we're going to sand that out. You're starting to get the drift of this, right? It's just places that stick out that would have gotten probably smacked in the last few years, few decades, century. All right, now we're going to put some, we're going to darken this. Now this is probably not American black walnut. It's probably some sort of European. I don't think it's French walnut. It's too light for that, but it may be. I don't know. They had several different varieties of things they used over there, but it was definitely made in Europe. They probably wouldn't have exported black walnut trees to Europe to do this, but it's got a black look. It's got a very dark brown. It's not a reddish brown. It's not a yellowish brown. It's a dark, like a blackish brown. So I'm going to try to imitate that. The first thing I'm going to do is this black paint. Just any old oil-based El Segundo brand black paint. Just smear it all over it. Make sure it gets in those cracks and those little dings, because that's where it's going to show and that's where it's going to look old. This needs to be oil-based black paint because the finish I'm putting on here is oil-based, and you need to keep them the same. Now that's going to sort of dry a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to come back with paint thinner on a rag and wipe that off. The paint thinner will loosen it up, except for the remnant. There'll be a remnant that'll stay in there. Now, this rag is dampened with mineral spirits, paint thinner. We're wiping off the excess, most of the black paint. But it stays in those gouges and those dings. It stays in there because it's too hard to get out of there. That created an open wound in that wood, and the black paint just goes deep in there. And the more thinner I put on this rag, the more it removes the black paint until I get it the color that I want to match that old piece. And it's getting there. This is the aging process. I just figured this out on my own. I had to make a stock for a guy that claimed his shotgun was over 100 years old, and it had been in a mishap, and they disabled it because it had killed one of his uncles. And so somebody broke the stock. He wanted another one put on there, but he didn't want it to look new. He wanted it to look old. So I came up with this system, I don't know, several years ago, and I really like it. It takes less skill than any other aging system I know. Just put it on, wipe it off. Paint on, paint off. So this is the color I'm after. When I put finish on this, clear finish, that will be really, really close. That's what I'm after. All I did was put black paint on it and wipe it off. I've got several coats on this stock already, and I'm thinking if this turns out well, this might be the last coat. See, this grain is not nearly filled up yet, but that original stock wasn't either. I've got to match the original stock. I'm going to rub this on by hand, and there's no way to tell if it's the last coat till after I look at it after it's dry. But if it turns out like I think it will, this should be the last. I don't video coats 1 through 12 or 15 or whenever the last one is, because it's just repetition. It's just watching paint dry. So I just do maybe the first one and usually the last one. So that's what we have here. gun stock's got more creases and Carter's got little yellow pills. Just creases everywhere. There's no straight, smooth surfaces. All right, we'll see. This might not even work with my hands, so I may have to get a brush and put it on to get in those crevices. I'll know here in just a few minutes. When you're hand rubbing one, there's a certain point where it'll get tacky. It'll start to get a little dry and tacky. And then when you hit that point, then you start rubbing it with your something smooth, like this part of your hand, the heel of your hand. And you got just a few minutes to do what you're going to do at that point, because if you rub it till it's too dry, it'll pull, and if you don't rub it till it's dry enough, you'll have swipe marks. So there's just, I don't know if this is even going to work or not. There's too many creases in this thing. I may have to wait and sand this smooth and then put it on with a real fine brush, maybe. We'll know in a few hours. This is about 23 lines per inch. This is a 22 lines per inch gauge, and there's one more line than there are lines here. It's not exactly 22, but it's close. It's very close. I think it's close enough to cut these at 22 and they not look like they're different. Alright, this is the original pattern. There is a little point where this master line comes back and this one comes back. There's a little point right there. It just comes out about, maybe 4 or 5 lines. From there it comes out 4 or 5 lines this way and this way. It forms this little bitty point. So I haven't drawn that in to here. But as I'm cutting these lines, I have to advance 4 or 5 lines this way and 4 or 5 lines this way to create that little point right there. Counting that, it says it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 lines that comes out both ways to create that little point. Remember when I was drawing my pattern and I stopped right there and right there? Well, I've got to stop cutting these lines at that point, and that becomes, this last line here becomes my outline.